Today I want to talk to you about I am God. Yahweh is Anunnaki, Enki, to Marduk, Anu, Enlil, Elohim, functions of mankind. First, a joke. How do you make the Anunnaki gods laugh? Make plans. Do you ever wonder who Yahweh is? Do you know where Yahweh's name is derived from? Have you heard of the Anunnaki gods Anu, Enlil, and Enki? Did you know that after the wars of the Anunnaki, the Enlil gave his powers over to Marduk, or the 50 names of Marduk? Did you know who Moses was and really was worshiping as Yahweh in Egypt? First, I take you to Exodus 3:14 through 15. God, or Marduk, replied to Moses, or Prince Tutmos, I am who I am, and I will be what I will be. Say this to the people of Israel. I am has sent me to you, or God Marduk. Also said to Moses, or Prince Tutmos, say this to the people of Israel. Yahweh, or the real origin of Yahweh, is Ea, hence, i.e., Enki. In lowercase, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my eternal name, or Olam, i.e., Nibiru means everlasting. My name, Anunnaki Elohim, to remember for all generations. Who is Moses? His real name is Prince Tutmos, and he served as a high priest in ancient Memphis to Tau, another name for Ea and Enki. Who is Enki? He is a great lord or son of King Anu, and half-brother to Lord Enlil, or El, or Elohim, are many deities of both sexes from every culture on earth, called the Anunnaki creator gods from Nibiru. Who and how is Enki, Yahweh, and how is Marduk related to him? The origin name is Yahweh is equal to Ea, i.e. Enki, i.e. Lord Earth, Jehovah, Indona, Poseidon, Vulcan, Shiva, Loki, and Tau are all other names of Enki. How does his name derive into Yahweh? In most and all ancient cultures, Yahweh is an Akkadian, Phoenician, Assyrian, Sumerian noun, a variation of the Assyrian, Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian Ea, or Enki, an ancient Semitic deity. It corresponds to the ancient Hebrew Ea, Eo, J, or Yah. In Babylonian, it is pronounced Yea, or Yahu, was worshipped by many civilizations in the Near Middle East, including the Hittites, Assyrians, Sumerians, Babylonians, and Habaru, or i.e., the ancient Israelites in Egypt. Yahu, or Ea, or Au, derived from the Anunnaki, Sumerian, Naburian, Yahwu. Yahweh is Ea, and occupied a major place in the Babylonian Sumerian pantheon. The son of Ea, or Yahweh, was the legendary Marduk, or Marduk, known as the king of all the Anunnaki gods. He assumes the place of honor after the next reincarnation of his father, Ea, Enki, Yahweh. Anu, Enki, and Enlil make up the highest god triad. Then there are also 4 more who make up the 7 who decree the fates on earth, such as Utu Shemesh, Ninhursag, Nana Sin, and Ishtar. Also not to mention Ishkur Adad, Ningishzida, and Ninurta. Also, we have the 50 Nephilim who landed on this planet potentially over 450,000 years ago to establish a redo. In the Absu, where Enki, Yahweh, established his first city in a redo and captioned the name God of Water and Lord Earth, who also created mankind over 100,000 years ago with the help of his half-sister Ninhursag. And this deity, Enki, also saved mankind's seed in the Great Flood. Also, it was Ea, Enki, Yahweh who confused our languages in the biblical Tower of Babel story. This original myth is paralleled in the Bible as the end marker and the Lord of Arata. Enki always chose humans and the compassion, like in the flood story, over the will of the other Anunnaki gods. In a nutshell, Yahweh is a fusion, not a confusion, of various assorted Anunnaki gods and goddesses with different functions and achievements. Hence, i.e., the writers of the Bible wrote of their Hebrew Anunnaki gods, I am that I am, meaning this is our earth and we control all functions, whatever it is, meaning, in quotes, we got this. A great example is, and check out your dollar bill and the eagle on the back of your dollar bill. It says in Latin, the motto that states, E pluribus unum, means from many come one. This precisely describes and represents the Anunnaki, Yahweh, Elohim. The biblical Abraham, father of the three religions, was from Ur of the Chaldees. Abraham, in my opinion, worshipped Nana Sin. But Sin is also Enlil's son and is part of the Anunnaki pantheon. And in Ur, at that time period, they worshipped many gods, now called the Anunnaki gods, i.e., those who from heaven to earth came down. Not only this, the Anunnaki controlled the entire Fertile Crescent in Mesopotamia, all the cities, through the different Anunnaki Elohim divine court through Nippur and King Anu and Enlil, or Dur-Ran-Ki, meaning, i.e., the bond between heaven and earth. After the Anunnaki war called Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, Anu and Enlil saw no purpose in resurrecting a new battle. So from Ur, Marduk reigned supreme as the new king of Babylon and in Egypt. As King Hammurabi states, lofty Anu, Lord of the gods, who from heaven to earth came, and Enlil, Lord of heaven and earth, who determines the destinies of the lands, determined for Marduk, the firstborn of Enki, the Enlil functions over mankind. Later, he was called Amun-Ra, became Amen, the unseen one. In the Unima Elish, we find Enki stating of his great son Marduk, in the presence of his fellow Anunnaki Elohim gods, quote, as for us, by his names pronounced, he is our God. Let us now proclaim his 50 names. Proclaiming his 50 names, granting Marduk the rank of 50, that had also been Enlil's and his son Ninurta. Marduk of the new Anunnaki gods, Yahweh became the God of the gods. Not one God, but one God representing many Anunnaki, Elohim deities of both sexes, from Nibiru to Mesopotamia to Babylon to Egypt, etc. The name Yahweh clearly means Enki, the protector and lover of the human race, and his son Marduk, out of respect for his father Enki or Ea, and of course the Hebrew writers called this deity Yahweh, which means Ea, also Yahu or Yahu or Tau, and also other names are Indona and Jehovah. Biblical proof of Marduk as God and Enki as Yahweh and the other Anunnaki Elohim, and Moses as Prince Tutmos in Exodus 6:2 through 3. And God, Marduk, said to Moses, or Prince Tutmos, I am Yahweh, the Anunnaki Elohim, the Lord. Keyword, Enki.
Hi everybody. Say hello to Yaldabaoth, Lord of the Archons. Christians meet your God. Basically all religions. Posted by V for Victory on Rumor Mill News. Long before the birth of Christianity, monotheism was an anomaly. Europe and the Near East flourished under the divine guidance of Sophia, ancient goddess of wisdom. The earth was the embodiment of Sophia, and thus sacred to the people who sought fulfillment in her presence. This ancient philosophy was threatening the emerging salvation-based creed of Christianity that was based on patriarchal dominion over the earth and lauded personal suffering as a path to the afterlife. In the Gnostic Gospels of Nag Hammadi, written in the 1st century, the writers warn us about the God of the Bible, known as the Demiurge, or Yaldabaoth. He is described as an insane, demented impostor deity who works against humanity. He is a self-deified, inorganic phantom, deluded about his own identity. The word demiurge literally means half-working or half-powered, so called because he can originate nothing, but must imitate that which already exists. The leader of the extraterrestrial Archon race, he is also called Saklos, or fool, Samael, blind, and Yaldabaoth to the Gnostics. This is the biblical Father God of the Old Testament, Yahweh or Jehovah, the God still worshipped by millions of Jews, Christians, and Muslims today. Yaldabaoth is a demented pretender God who claims to be the creator of the material world and demands slavish obedience from his human subjects while he works to undermine the evolution and destiny of humanity. According to the Gnostic writings, Yaldabaoth himself chose a certain man named Abraham and made a covenant with him, and so started the devastating salvationist religions of monotheism. Archons are predatory cyborgs, lacking creativity, but can imitate with a vengeance. Their expertise is simulation, capital H-A-L, HAL, or virtual reality, and the demiurge fashioned a heavenly world copied from the Sophianic original, but completely fake. This archontic heaven is the afterworld for countless humans who are duped by the simulation presented by Messianic salvationist religion, Christianity. This fake salvation by superhuman powers rather than through the divine potential innate to humanity and aligned with the planetary goddess Sophia, is the hallmark of extraterrestrial religion. It is the root cause of most of the problems that currently beset humanity.
The demiurge is responsible for the creation of all material things, that is to say, all things we can see and feel in the world. When the demiurge created the world and humans, he wished to trap their souls forever, and when they ate of the fruit of knowledge, they were cast out and punished for all eternity. The belief of Gnostics and the belief of Orthodox Christians are flipped in this case. The one we believe to be the Lord our God is an evil creator bent on supremacy over his creations. What we interpret as the divine creator is nothing more than a vile tyrant, and the true God is the one who delivers us from him in the form of esoteric knowledge, or gnosis. The knowledge of the earth, the soul, and how to escape the grasp of the demiurge. Going even further back than the creation of the earth, there were many other entities like the monad we spoke of before. There was the supreme being, but also Barbelo, the female counterpart to the monad, the one whose light shone like his, and what could be considered their daughter in Sophia. Keep in mind that these beings are made of pure energy, so they simply popped into existence as the monad expanded. Sophia wanted to create an entity not entirely spiritual, and she beseeches the other higher beings, but is denied her request. Despite this, Sophia decides to pursue the matter and creates an entity all on her own. And when she saw the consequences of her desire, it changed into a form of a lion-faced serpent, and its eyes were like lightning fires which flash. She cast it away from her, outside that place, that no one of the immortal ones might see it, for she had created it in ignorance. This entity which Sophia had created was the first of many incomplete demonic beings known as Aeons. This specific lion-faced serpent was named Yaldabaoth, another name used for the demiurge, who was the first archon. The divine never intended humanity or a physical universe to exist. In Gnostic teachings, it was the doing of the evil demiurge, or Yaldabaoth. The book goes on to say, the archon who is weak has three names. The first is Yaldabaoth, the second is Saklas, meaning fool, and the third is Samael, meaning venom of God. And he is impious in his arrogance which is in him.
The name Anunnaki is derived from An, the Sumerian god of the sky. The name is variously written, meaning princely offspring, or offspring of An. The Anunnaki are a group of deities who appear in the mythological traditions of the ancient Sumerians, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. Descriptions of how many Anunnaki there were, and what role they fulfilled, are inconsistent and often contradictory. In the earliest Sumerian writings about them, which come from the post-Akkadian period, the Anunnaki are the most powerful deities in the pantheon, descendants of An and Ki, the god of the heavens, and the goddess of earth, and their primary function is to decree the fate of Sumerians. The earliest known usages of the term Anunnaki come from inscriptions written during the reign of Gudea and the 3rd dynasty of Ur. In the earliest texts, the term is applied to the most powerful and important deities in the Sumerian pantheon, the descendants of the sky god An. This group of deities included the 7 gods who rule: An, Enlil, Enki, Ninhursag, Nana, Utu, and Inannu. Anu is commonly spoken of as the old Anu, the original chief, the king of the lower world, and the lord of spirits and demons. His emblem is that of a single wedge, which represents him on the Chaldean numeration tablets. This single wedge has the numeral power of 60, and 60 appears to have been assigned to Anu as his special number. Sumerian myths say that the rights and standards of kingship to Anu descended from the central luminary An, founder of the Golden Age. In Babylonian myth, the Sumerian An appears as Anu, first in the line of gods and kings. And according to the best authorities on Babylonian astronomy, the god Anu was mysteriously linked to Saturn. The term Anu was also in Egypt applied to the abode of the gods. It has the appearance of being the same name as the center of sun worship in ancient Egypt, Anu being the Egyptian name of Heliopolis. An was the chief god of the Anunnaki. An is Anu in Egyptian, and Anum in Akkadian. An was the creator of the gods, including the people of earth, but over time, An lost his privileged position to his son Enlil. Anu, in Assyrian mythology the first great deity of the upper triad, Anu, Elu, Rebel, and Ea, or heaven, earth, and Hades. His residence was in the upper seventh heaven, which was called the heaven of Anu, and was symbolized by an emblem resembling a Maltese cross, which was often worn around the necks of the Chaldean kings. As the god of heaven, he was called the god of heaven, Anu the king, the great god of the world, the chief of the gods, and Father Anu. The old triad of Babylonia was Na, Ea, and Mulji, which became under the great sacerdotal reform and new official religion, the union of Akkadian and Semitic, the trinity of Anu, Ea, and Bel, and these were all children of Ziku, or Zakar, the sky. Most of mythology was written under a year of 3 seasons, the time of sowing, of harvest, and of the inundation of the Egyptians, and in Babylonian, 3 gods divided the universe, Anu, Bel, and Ea. Sometimes 3 stands for the 3 dark nights of the moon, again the 3 seasons, and again the 3 elements or the 3 worlds. The 3 original seasons were spring, summer and winter, the autumn was added afterwards. In the various languages of India and abroad, the word Anu has a manifold of meanings and definitions. Some of the most noted include a measurement of time, a very small particle, an atom, a molecule, a subatom, millet or grain, a 6th part of a mode in a sunbeam, alongside, by the side of, lengthwise, in consequence of, being indicated by, repetition, towards, in the direction of, near to, in orderly succession, according to, in regular order, in order of seniority, corresponding with, following with, conformable to, with regard to, towards, in respect of, afterwards, with, together with, now at this time, again, once more, and further. The climate, especially in South Babylonia, is extraordinarily warm. The months during which the rains prevail are from November to February. At the present day, the heaviest rains occur in November and December, but in ancient times, as the names of the months prove, the rainy season would appear to have been in Tevet and Shebat, that is, from the end of December to the end of February. Not only the Sumerian names for these months, Abu-Udu, coming from the sea, and Shabatu, refer to rainstorms. The Sumerians must have originated in a region where water was not plentiful, and where as a consequence vegetation and life are associated with the oncoming of the rainy season. The world, therefore, is pictured as beginning in the fall, when the rains set in, and not in the spring, when the storms and rains cease. Such a condition is apt to prevail in mountainous districts, where the streams are low, or entirely dried up in the dry season, and depend upon the rains to fill them again, in contrast to a mountain-less plain like the Euphrates Valley, where the streams, fed from their sources, flow in abundance during the entire year, and during the rainy season overflow and cause inundations. The 11th month was the height of the rainy season, and known as the month of the course of rainstorms. The Assyrians place Anu in the month of January, Anu as Janus, the two-faced god, resting, as the sun at the winter solstice, and in Aquarius at the deluge. This two-faced deity is usually identified as Enki or Ea's minister, Izimud or Ishmu, although, here lays a contradiction, as is often found in the Mesopotamian pantheon. Anu and Izimud may be 2 different deities who emphasize the same attributes of the month in question. Nonetheless, Anu's relation to Janus in January cannot be fully dismissed. As the scholar, Samuel Fales Dunlap states, Ion, Janus, and Anu are the same divinity. Ani, a name of the sun in Assyria, is in Egypt and Syria On. In Greece it is John and Ion. In Italy it is Janus, whom Scaliger has shown to be the god of the sun. In Etruria it is John. On, Ani, Anus, John, Ionis, Ion, Ina, the sun. Two-faced Janus, the origin of the silently flowing year. He was believed to preside over the new year. His 2 faces, sometimes one old and the other young, were emblematical of his looking both on the old and the new year, as the name of the month January is derived from that of Janus. Sometimes the 2 faces, the old and young, were represented as the one looking upwards, to the coming year, the other downwards, on the year gone by. Deities associated with water or various bodies of water were important in almost all mythologies. Agriculture is inseparable from water. The Sumerians believed that in the beginning, the universe was a great body of water. Later, pieces of land arose from the water and life began. The importance of water is justified in the fact that the Sumerian ideogram for water and semen are identical. Enki is the Sumerian god of earth and water, knowledge, crafts, and creation, and one of the Anunnaki. He was later known as Ea in Akkadian and Babylonian mythology. He was associated with the southern band of constellations called the Stars of Ea, but also with the constellation Ashaiku, the field, square of Pegasus, though his position in Capricorn will later prove certain. Beginning around the 2nd millennium BC, he was sometimes referred to in writing by the numeric ideogram for 40, occasionally referred to as his sacred number. Here we must now interject and acknowledge the traces and significance of the number 40 in the Bible, to Babylon, where 40 was the special number attributed to Enki or Ea, the god of earth and water, and where a good rainy season lasted 40 days. The 40 days and nights is a frequent refrain in the Bible. The number 40 is mentioned at least 146 times in the scriptures, and is routinely found in relation with death, destruction, penances, and water. When you investigate in Kabbalah, you discover that 40 is also the total for the Hebrew letter Mem, which was first drawn as a symbol referring to actual water. From a purely astrological viewpoint, this number is associated with the disappearance of the Pleiades for 40 days, which was already observed in ancient Babylonia. This was also the length of the rainy season, as we are reminded by the 40 days of rain that caused Noah's flood. When the Pleiades returned from their exile, the Babylonians celebrated a New Year's feast. From the 40-day disappearance of the Babylonian Pleiades, the significance of 40 was apparently derived. This 40-day period coincided with the rainy season. It was a time of fearsome storms for the sailor, a time of flood and inundation for the land dweller, a time of trial, of danger, and of exile of the beneficent stars. The return of the Pleiades was the signal for the New Year festival, in which a part of the ceremonial consisted of burning a bundle of 40 reeds, perhaps symbolical of the destruction of 40 devils who had held the Pleiades in bondage for the 40 days during which the evil spirits raged. Festival days sacred to a deity were numerous, and formed another important feature of worship, as was to be expected of an agricultural people like the ancient Babylonians. These festivals were connected originally with the seasons of the year. Curiously enough, and incidentally, Enlil's special number is 50, and has relation to calendar days. For example, Pentecost always occurs 50 days after the death and resurrection of Jesus, the Son, and the New Wine Festival came 50 days, or 7 weeks after Pentecost. Moreover, it is known that all cross-quarter days are 40 days after the equinoxes and solstices. Given the ancient Druidic 360-day calendar, there are an observable amount of 40 and 50-day intervals. Not to mention, the Druids celebrated a festival called Beltane, which fell between the spring equinox and summer solstice, and marked the beginnings of summer. The well-read and knowledgeable will already comprehend that Bel is none other than Enlil. And thus, it should come as no surprise that the Babylonian moon god Sin, whose special number is 30, corresponds to the number of days in a given month. Enki, the Lord of the Earth, his word is unchangeable, who is better known as Ea, Lord of the Waters. Ea, the Babylonian culture god, is a water deity. The figure of Enki appears on many cylinder seals and other monuments. Seldom standing, more often seated on his throne, he wears the horned, high hat of the great gods, and often holds the rod and the ring, symbols of divine power, which in Sumerian art distinguish gods from mortals, but which are not special attributes of any one god. His special attribute is a horned animal, usually the ibex or mountain goat, which is often depicted together with a fish. On a few seals a third animal appears in Enki's presence, a bird which seems to be the eagle. Later the fish and the horned animal are contracted into one single monster, the well-known fish ram symbol of Ea, which has long been recognized as a sign of the zodiac. The name of Ea himself affords us an example of what we may find. It is sometimes expressed by an ideograph which signifies literally an antelope, Dar in Akkadian, Taraku in Assyrian, whence perhaps the biblical name of Ter. Thus we are told that Ea was called the antelope of the deep, the antelope the creator, the antelope the prince, the lusty antelope, and the shipper ark of Ea, in which his image was carried at festivals, was entitled The Ship of the Divine Antelope of the Deep. According to Professor Sayce, the Chaldean god Ea was at times regarded rather as a gazelle than as an antelope. It was then that he was entitled the princely gazelle, the lusty gazelle, the gazelle who gives the earth, and Marduk his son, a sun god, is termed the mighty one of the gazelle god. The gazelle frequently takes the place of the goat, which was also sacred and exalted into the zodiacal sign of Capricornus, since Tevet, the 10th month, corresponds to the sign of Capricornus. The sign of the goat, the sea goat, was called the southern gate of the sun, Abba Adu, the Akkadian name of the 10th month, answering roughly to December. Thus, at Enki, otherwise called Eridu, the supreme god was called Enki or Ea. As Eridu was situated on or near the sea, Ea became the great water god. The Anunnaki were angels or spirits of the great water underground, the watery abyss whence the springs and rivers flow. The union of the syllables Anunnaki represents a compound ideograph. The middle syllable Nun signifies strength, whereas the first is the ordinary ideograph for water. Hummel proposed to interpret the name therefore as gods of the watery habitation. Anu, the spirit of heaven, Ea, the spirit of earth, the Agigi are good angels, and the Anunnaki are evil angels. Anunnaki was the Akkadian deity called the Angel of the Abyss, a form of Ea. In the Semitic version, Anunnaki denotes the spirits of the lower world. From the Middle Babylonian period onward, the name Anunnaki was applied generally to the deities of the underworld, whereas the name Agigi was applied to the heavenly deities. The word Anunnas signifies the master, or great one, and corresponds to the chief ones of the earth. The Anunnas, who dwelt in the realm of Molil, were called the Anunnaki, or masters of the underworld. They sat on golden thrones beside the stream of the waters of life, in a land of darkness and decay. The modern era has witnessed an incredible surge in the popularity of all forms of media concerning the mythology of the ancient Mesopotamians. Fueling this ever-growing trend are the writings of a number of researchers. This field is largely reliant upon the translations of cuneiform tablets supposedly made by Zacharias Sitchin, whose series of Earth Chronicles books form the foundation upon which the modern Church of the Alien Gods has been built. In the wake of the popular reception of Sitchin's books, a plethora of popular media have followed his lead in claiming that the Sumerian literature portrays the Anunnaki as a group of alien beings who descended to the earth in flying vehicles, in space suits, or other paraphernalia. There is no such depiction of the Anunnaki in the Sumerian texts. Most of Zacharias Sitchin's writings on the Anunnaki are concocted fables. His badly translated word, Anunnaki, in fact, absolutely does not mean those who came down, or those who came from heaven to earth, as has been reverberated in the echo chambers of the ancient alien community for the past 2 decades. The term Anunnaki, in all reality, bears the definition and transliteration, the divine water chiefs of earth.
When we do see the nasties, we are not going to react to them with the fear that we would otherwise have reacted. Because now what game is someone playing? I think that they are playing the game that whoever they are, that we should accept these beings and welcome them with open arms and make them our masters.
I've yet again.
You see, sir, there has been a steady build-up in books, in children's comics, and in other things of the fact that we must accept these creatures. It started with the film E.T., where a cute little alien creature got lost on Earth and fought hard to be accepted by human beings. I think the same thing is on the cards here. The question is why?
But I'm going to show you something that no one else has been able to pick up on yet. Everyone is trying to tie the Baal in Balenciaga to Baal from the Canaanite pantheon. But Baal just simply means Lord, and there's multiple Baals all throughout the Bible. Now here's the kicker. Enki is actually Enki, as in the ancient Sumerian god Enki. And yes, Enki is mentioned in the Bible, which is Aleph, Nun, Kaf, Yod. which they will try to say that it says Enoki, but phonetically it's literally just Enki, which is Enki Yod He Vav He. And Aga is another term that means basically king or royalty. And Enki is Samael, the demiurge, the god of ignorance and arrogance, that his name was Yahweh. So Balenciaga is not talking about Baal, it's saying Lord Enki is king, which Enki is Samael.
The English invented the name Jesus. There was no letter J before the 16th century. Jesus was changed from Latin Jesus. Jesus is from the Greek word Jesus, translated in Hebrew meaning Hail Zeus or Greetings Zeus. Sincere believers in the Jewish Messiah are very uncomfortable with the Greek word Jesus, even they see in it a very clear correlation to the Greek sun god Zeus. Compare Jesus to Er and Zeus. Er and Zeus are the same god. The first one, Er, is the Akkadian and Babylonian name for the same god in Greek named Zeus. Er is also the earlier Sumerian god known as Enki. Zeus was the head of all the Greek gods, but to the Akkadian and Babylonian people Er was simply a major deity, and to the Romans he was known as Saturn and Jupiter. That is the sun. According to Philip Gardiner, in his book titled Gateways to the Other World, he states, Horus was called the Messiah, God's anointed, and Christ was often found written upon mummies as a word of anointing and blessing from Horus. He was Christ/Christ, and the word made flesh. The Egyptian term for crocodile is Messes, which is the root for the Hebrew term Messiah. Messa derives from the Hebrew stem MSSH. When vowels are added to this stem it forms the verb mashiach, to anoint, and the noun, Messiah, which means anointed one, that is the Christos, Christ. In ancient Egypt the process of making the mummy was to karos. The place in which it was laid is the karos, and the product was the Christ, whose image is the upright mummy, equals the risen Christ. Hence the name Christ, Christos in Greek, Christus in Latin, for the anointed, was derived from the Egyptian word Christ. Gerald Massey connects Christ with the Greek word Christos, Messiah, and Christ. He says, say what you will or believe what you may, there is no other origin for Christ the Anointed than Horus the Kairos or anointed Son of God the Father. Christianity derives from the English word Christ, which stems from the Greek word Christos meaning the Anointed One. The Hebrew word Messiah evolves from the ancient Egyptian word Messa or Messias, and refers to the crocodile Sabek, and crocodile fat. When the Egyptian pharaoh was crowned king he was anointed with the oil containing crocodile fat, which was poured over his head during the coronation process. The Hebrew term Messiah in Greek is Christos. Coincidentally, the appellation of Christos can be seen in our modern word Crisco, as in Crisco cooking oil. Anointing people with oil is a common occurrence in both Old and New Testaments. So, why a crocodile and crocodile fat? The crocodile, Sabek, represented and symbolized royal power. In the New Kingdom, in the time of Moses, the crocodile is connected to the sun god Ra, and in this case represents the primordial or creator god coming, as the reptile does, out of the depths of the murky Nile. Also note, the crocodile exemplifies the soul of the sun. Chrono-Saturn was also equated with the Egyptian crocodile god Sabek, and also Pepi, Greek nemesis. Kronos, who was worshipped in Coptos as Sebekjeb, the god Sabek, whom the Greek called Suchos, is represented as a crocodile. Seb, or Jeb, was the embodiment of the earth. He is called the Prince of the Gods, as going before all the later gods. He thus is analogous to Saturn. Sabek is Saturn in Western astrology. The crocodile is attributed to Saturn as the devourer. As a symbol of Saturn, it indicates the influence of the universe, the end of the cycle of trumps that the fool initiates. The crocodile is also Sebek, the Egyptian god who represents the destructive power of the sun. Saturn, ornamented with the head of a crocodile, the emblem of Saturn. His name Sebek is the crocodile, originally pronounced Spek. This great fish is the crocodile, which was applied to Horus as a figure of force in his capacity of solar god, the crocodile in Egypt being a prototype of the mythical dragon, not the evil dragon but the solar dragon, which was known in relation to Sebek and to Saturn as the dragon of life. Saturn the dragon was a form of Sebek, the crocodile-headed Horus, the prototype of the good dragon. Again, we prove the figure of Jesus Christ to be no more than a rehash of older gods, having connections to the likes of Zeus, Enki, Horus, Sebek, Saturn and many, many others, all of whom embody the solar disk and exhibit characteristics of the sun.
Christianity, it doesn't exist. Before 1492, nobody knew what a Christian was. The Roman Catholic Church, they sovereign, they ordained, they canonized Christopher Columbus to be a saint. His whole primary objective was to come to my land, which is America, where I am native, to come over here and to push the Catholic doctrine, which is named after Marco Vespucci, America, an Italian explorer. His whole primary objective was to push this doctrine. Instead of calling it Catholic, the Catholic doctrine, we're gonna call it, I don't know, Christianity. Why should we call it that? Because Christianity is the same name as Christopher Columbus. You understand? Christianity is the youngest religion on the face of the earth.